Hi, Lois. Lovely to have you here. Honestly, something I've been looking forward to for a long time since I've been connected with you over Zoom. Uh, it's wonderful because I think COVID times brought us to a point where Zoom was our only way of interacting. But to have you here really in flesh and blood is totally a different experience. And I'm so blessed to have you sitting right here in my office.
I feel the same way. I think when we get together in person, we step into one another's auras and we really feel the difference because we have that spark of the divine in our hearts.
Absolutely.
We feel it.
Absolutely. That's what I feel, that over the years, my journey has been of a stress management consultant, since I really do believe that we come to this planet to learn the lesson of love. And joy and happiness are our true purpose. But stress is what really drives us away from it and pulls us in the other direction. So I'm always looking, traversing the planet, traversing many planets actually, and finding the answers. What I felt, I have delved into many modalities, many tools I have learned and gathered. Many have come from within. But what I heard from you whenever I attended your lectures and people from your part of the organization, I felt that it was helping a lot to help people. So I think I would like your take on that particular subject.
I'd love to share with you. I'm so grateful for the work that you do in helping people find ways to bust stress, get through it, get around it.
Thank you.
We all, as you said, are connected to the divine. And the whole goal of life is to strengthen that connection so that we can put on more and more of the divine every day. And someday we actually unite with our higher self and ultimately with our own God self.
Absolutely. I am that I am.
I am that I am. Om Tat Sat Om.
Absolutely. When I used to lecture initially, I would always say Aham Brahmasmi, Nahi Brahmu, which means from the Vedas, they say that I am God. But it never made sense because we are taught culturally to believe that God is separate from us. So I was pleasantly happy, I would say, and amazed when I heard you talk about the same thing and explain it in a very beautiful fashion. So I would like you to give a wider explanation and a more intense one on that subject.
Wonderful. Yes, we are taught from an early age. In fact, it's actually an illusion that we are separate from God. We have to pray to someone outside of us.
Absolutely.
And India really has an advantage over the Western world because built into the Indian culture is that idea of the Atman, the divine that lives inside. And over the centuries, we've been learning this a little bit in the West from teachers who are coming. And this is the whole purpose of the Ascended Masters in the Summit Lighthouse, to help us recognize step by step how we can expand that flame of God that actually is in our hearts. And that flame of God is what connects us, is what empowers us to be a son, a daughter of God. And that power is ordained for us so that we can use that light of God that comes to us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, over the crystal cord from the mighty I am that I am, through our higher self, into our hearts, into our chakras, out into the world. And that's what we're all about.
That sounds lovely. And I'm sure whoever is listening is going to connect to this and take themselves into a higher realm and into the concept of the I am that I am.
Yes.
And after we finish talking, I would love to even learn a little bit more intensely about this. And so that whenever we connect again, we can come out with more solutions to busting stress, to aligning with ourselves, and to learn to be our own God selves.
Exactly. There's so much in the world today that is trying to take us away from the presence of God. There's so much fear.
Exactly.
And I think COVID did some of that.
Absolutely. And I think fear is the only prison we live in, which doesn't allow us to step into our God self, because we are so bogged down with all those negative emotions and negative ideas. So I would like you to just help people to understand how they can get rid of that fear.
Excellent. You know, the ascended masters, or the saints, however you want to call the great masters of the heaven world, they have a word for it. They have created a word of all of the difficulties that keep us from God. And that word is imperil. I-M-P-E-R-I-L. Usually we don't use it in this way in the English dictionary.
Right.
You know, you think, oh, my life is in peril. That means my life is in danger.
In danger, exactly.
But the masters call all of this stress and all the anxiety, the fear, the doubt, they give it a name, imperil. And they say it's the most dangerous thing on the spiritual path.
Okay.
So when we collect fear and doubt and anxiety around us, that's actually pulling us down, and it's taking the light of God, coloring it with muddy colors and just leaving it in our lower half of our bodies, even though we can't see it. And it's like a sticky substance keeping us from going higher, tuning into our hearts. But there is a way out. And there are tools to work with stress, to get rid of imperil, and to move forward in the light. So that's what we try to offer to the world with...
Absolutely wonderful. I completely agree with you. And I love the way you explained it. It's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Masters. You know, it's... I think that one of the key tools that people can use immediately, already the things that we've talked about, I am that I am, we can think about that light of God above us immediately, and that's where our attention goes. But the wonderful tool for this age, I know you're very familiar with, the violet flame.
Right.
The light of God that is being released. It doesn't matter what religion, what faith, no faith. It's still the light of God that is coming to the earth. And we are made aware of it these days because we're in that next cycle of time. We're moving into a new age. We're moving into a golden age.
Absolutely.
And that's why we have this wisdom that's coming to us now.
Yes. I think it's... people like you and me and the light beings who are actually spreading the awareness and spreading the awareness of the golden age coming. I remember as a child hearing about this from my grandmother. You know, in the Indian system, they would call it the Kali Yuga will go and the Satyug will come. But that's what the era of truth and when the machine age, when we're at the peak of our media selves and the mechanical selves and how advanced everything around us. It's been moving so fast. Even a person like me who thought I was on top of the game as far as traveling the world is concerned and, you know, knowledge is concerned on a level of the here and now, felt completely left behind because, you know, it's so... everything on the planet is moving so fast, the vibration.
Yes.
So since we are in that momentum of reaching the peak of the golden age, I think it's people like you who can help spread the message of how they can align with themselves and reach an era of peace and calm and happiness and tranquility.
Exactly.
In a more, I would say, in a joyous fashion.
And I know you're doing the same thing, and many people who are viewing this. Our lives are full of drama, aren't they? You know?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And we realize that we come into life and we come into a family or a situation and we have many obstacles that we face. And I know we realize that this is karma that we've created in past lives and even in this life by the energy that we've put forth. We've created the situations that we come into. Sometimes we feel that there's no way out. All we can do is face the karma, and that's my lot in life, that's my destiny, and too bad.
Right.
The hope of the Ascended Masters and the joy of coming into a new age is that they have given us the whole concept of freedom and forgiveness. Now that sounds really simple.
I know. Everything sounds simple, and it is simple if we allow it to be.
That's right.
By just living with surrender.
Surrender.
But I think surrender is probably one of the most difficult things, because we can't let go of our fears and of our social conditioning, which we've grown up with. So perhaps the violet flame could help people to understand the concept of surrender, acceptance, and love. I mean, I don't know too much about it. That's your forte.
Well, it gives us something to hang on to, that's for sure, and it works. So if you think about forgiveness and you think what forgiveness really is, we take God's love. Now, everybody associates love with a color, don't we? I mean, Valentine's Day is coming.
The color purple.
The beautiful purple and the pink. We always see these beautiful pink hearts of love and roses and rose colors and things like that. Okay, now you combine that with God's power. Now, the power of God you can actually visualize as blue. And when you take God's power, and if you're a great painter or something, and you take your palette and you mix the blue and you mix the pink and the rose, you come up with a magnificent violet. And that is the color of forgiveness. So we're using love and the power of God to forgive others, especially ourselves. And when we forgive others, you are no longer tied to that person.
Absolutely.
And that means you have freedom.
Oh, yes, that's beautiful.
So that's why violet gives us forgiveness and freedom.
Freedom, I feel, is the ultimate thing. As a child, I grew up with the idea that I want freedom. You don't really understand. And being born in a country like India, and being born in an aristocratic family where the rules and regulations are very strong, you're supposed to dress in a certain way, behave in a certain way. I always felt that my freedom of expressing myself, was completely tied down.
Yes.
But I never understood the freedom I was really looking for was a release from, like what I would call a spiritual freedom, what you've been trying to talk about.
Yes.
So, I would express it in ways of dressing well.
Yes.
And I'd wear scantier clothes because it would make me feel that I'm not catering to the environment and society. I'm free of all this. But once I learned to accept, I learned to understand that true freedom comes from within, comes from love, surrender, acceptance, and forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
Because that frees you from the ties of being bogged down with negative emotion.
Exactly. And we sometimes feel that it's impossible to do.
Yes.
Because something very traumatic has happened to us, or someone is doing something that is not right. It's not just and it's not fair. So there are a couple things that we have to remember. Well, there's no injustice in the universe.
Absolutely.
There's always something that we have done or something we've brought forward or some purpose that we have to demonstrate. This is the path of freedom. So we take that light of love and the light of power. We put it together, make that violet light. We fill that with our love and our joy. We visualize just as if you were looking at a fireplace and you picture a fire in the fireplace, then color it violet and see that violet flame going into whatever situation it might be and really forgiving. Maybe someone has lost a boyfriend or a girlfriend and they walked out and, we just can't forgive them. Or maybe someone has really abused us and we can't forgive them. Yet the violet flame is so miraculous that if we pray for that light to come into us, it changes everything in our psychology, in our bodies, in our DNA, in how we think about the world. It's what we call transmutes. It takes dark substance and releases it, transmutes it into light and cleans every cell. And the more you give it, the more it does. And then you find you change yourself. Because when you forgive, then you don't have those ties.
Sounds like magic.
It is. The violet flame is magic. We call it a magic eraser. It actually transmutes past life karma. Even if you don't know what you did in a past life, you can
get rid of it.
You can get rid of it. Not sometimes very quickly, sometimes very slowly, depending on what it is. It does happen. And then we have our release. And we find that we still have problems in life from time to time. We still have drama, but we can deal with it. Our life is more of a flow. Yes, we have, waves and little ups and downs, but it's not like way up, way down, way up, way down. Instead, we face our problems with balance and equanimity. And that's how we become one with that flame of God in our hearts and ultimately our higher self.
Okay, that's beautiful. I love what you said. Absolutely, every word of it.
Step by step.
And yes, and I do hope that people are going to join into it and learn to cleanse themselves.
I hope so.
And reach their higher selves, because that is our true purpose on the planet.
And even if it sounds a little complicated, then just look at it simply. Is saying to our friend, I forgive you, or please forgive me. Or, using prayer in a spoken way, like in mantra or in chants, really sends that prayer out in a physical, tangible form, because we know sound is physical.
Right.
Sound is a wave.
Right.
And it actually, then your prayer that is spoken prayer, for example, you might say, I am a being of violet fire.
Right.
Great. You see yourself as this being of violet fire, and you are actually sending that light out, just like dropping a little stone in the pool.
It's like a vibration that goes out into the universe.
Right. That's right. And we see that physics is now collaborating with that and saying everything is waves.
Absolutely. I think the younger generation, I would say, almost knows how to identify with this concept. So
That's right.
It's easier for them to understand. Of course, I personally believe in the age of the soul and the spirit. And, but when we take the body, I think we owe it something.
Yes.
And we owe ourselves, even our spirit, the fact that we evolved through it in the best way we can.
That's right.
So if we have access to knowledge that helps us evolve, I think we are very blessed. So that's wonderful, Lois. I absolutely loved everything we spoke about. Can you tell me a little bit about your concept of love?
Oh, yes.
Love is, because I really feel that we have been sent on this planet to learn the lesson of love. There are so many planets. I mean, I don't want to get into that because it becomes a bit complicated for everybody. Everybody doesn't want to fly on all the planets. They want to be here. So how about, telling people a little bit about love in the here and now, and how we can integrate it within ourselves and spread it around.
We're all looking for love, aren't we?
Absolutely.
We're all looking for love.
Whether we accept it or we don't. Most people, because the ego, they say, I don't need it. I remember my dad telling me over the years, I don't need it. I don't need your love. But it's because they're hurting so much inside. They want it so much.
Yes.
But they don't want to accept it.
Yes.
Makes them feel weak.
I think that's what people do psychologically.
And I think it's also the power of the sexes. We are brought up to believe that the divine masculine, the alpha male is what every man should learn to be. But I think now slowly people are learning to accept that the male and the female does exist within all of us. And at the end of the day, we all need love. And that's what integrates the male and the female within us.
We see that, don't we?
Yeah, and makes us whole.
Yes, it's the wholeness that we're looking for.
So I think people need to transcend their cultural boundaries and the influx of what they've learned as children about men don't cry, men don't do this because it's weakness. I mean, they should learn that love transcends it all.
Oh, I love what you're saying. Love, love, love. I think that the English language just does not have enough words for love.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There are so many types. And what you are saying, I agree with completely. When we are created in that great cosmos of God, if we think of God as the great central sun of the universe, the one sun, but it was love that compelled God to emanate us.
Oh, beautiful.
So if we think of the great Tao, the cycle of the figure eight flow of masculine to feminine, feminine to masculine,
Right.
then we see that it's that flow that created sparks of God, because God wanted to expand because of love.
Right.
And so God sent sparks, which ultimately are the sparks in our hearts.
Okay.
And we, as a little spirit spark, traveled through the great, mighty Sun of God, the S-U-N of God. We traveled through that, and we collected all of the light energy that we would need to fulfill our mission to come back to the divine and bring that light back to God. So we each created an identity like a snowflake. Each one of us so unique, because some people collected the blue of the will of God, and their mission would be to be a leader, be someone who has that God power, and to show people the way to plan something and be the will of God, do the will of God. And some people collected a lot of green because their field and their mission is to heal. So they bring that chlorophyll color, the emerald, they bring that into the world. And others illumination, the yellow of divine understanding, etc. The pink, that some people come with a great amount of pink in their divine identity so that they can really emanate more love and caring. And, it goes on. The people who are architects who have so much white and the purity of God's planning. And then people who come to serve others with purple of God's purple light and flecked with gold and ruby. So all of these magnificent colors we collect, and that is what is in our own divine self, our God self, I am that I am. And that spirit spark, which is made of the three primary colors of God's love, wisdom, and power, pink for love, yellow for wisdom, and blue for God's power. That three-part flame lives right in the secret chamber of our heart chakra, and that is actually God. So that is what ignites our whole physical body, which is made up of many things as well, emotions and etheric ideas and many things. But that spark of God is connected by the crystal cord to our higher consciousness, which many call the Christ mind or the Buddha mind, the Buddha nature, the Vishnu self, the Krishna self, the higher self, such as Guru Nanak or the great avatars that are at that level of the mind of God. And that is what we are meant to do. So through the love of this higher self, we bring that higher self more and more upon us. So the role of love in our lives is to first love God, our God self, and the one true God who we emanate from. And secondly, to love our own higher self so that we become that higher self. And ultimately, that is what we give away because we love God in others so much. So we sacrifice all the human ideas, the human ego, even though that helps us get along in life, comes a point we sacrifice it.
Right.
And we sacrifice and we surrender. We say, oh God, I'm doing the best I can, but not my will, but thine be done. You do it. You show me the way. And then we come and we serve and we give all that we can in love so that we're not only going back to God, but we're taking all of our brothers and sisters with us, along with us,
wonderful,
raising
wonderful.
it all.
Thank you so much, Lois. That's been a real pleasure to listen to all your ideas on love, compassion, being one with God, oneness, and love. Love.
Yes.
So, absolutely grateful. It's been a wonderful experience.
So nice to enjoy this with you. Thank you very much. My honor.
Welcome.